Hey everybody, Nick Mass here, Crucible Art Collective of course, at my solo exhibition Puzzles and Pieces, taking it down right now, doing on install day, here with Sneakvibing Blog of course, and we're going to talk a little. What's up everybody, Nick Mass here, rapper, painter, creative dude, here in my exhibition, The Heartbreakers. I'm here with Schondra from Sneakvibing Blog. I did mess it up because it's Sneakvibing Media. Shout out the name change.
What's up you guys, Schondra here, creator of Sneakvibing Blog, and we are at BICA, Buffalo Institute of Contemporary Art, with Nick Mass, who just released his second exhibition installation called The Heartbreakers, a follow-up from his Puzzles and Pieces exhibition he did at the Crucible 2024, and we're here. So I want to kind of get right into it, I guess. Well, let people know who you are. Explain who you are.
I'm Nick Mass, self-described as rapper, painter, creative dude, little tagline. Maybe not the best one, but it's mine. And I'm from Buffalo, grew up in Lockport. I make music, I make visual art, mostly paint and collage. I do Polaroid photography. I love to perform. I love to be in the community. I make t-shirts. I like to be a funny guy. I like to make all sorts of stuff.
So for people that don't know you, you basically, one of the things that stand out, or the characteristics of your art, is that you like repurpose things and add color, add shape to it, and almost create a new life for it. So kind of go into, I guess start with kind of your approach of creating things, because I think that stems everything else you do.
I think one of the biggest things with my process is that a lot of it might happen by accident without really I guess the best way to put that is that I'll just be playing around and I'll stumble across something and I'll run with it. It's not really like I have this great thought process at the beginning where it's like this is this huge idea and it's like I need to plan it all out and pages of notes and documents and everything and all of these ideas and all of this prep work. It's sort of just like I find something that I maybe I'll think about it for a while, maybe a couple months, and it's in the back of my head, and then once I discover it, then I sort of just run with it. The Heartbreakers themselves, as you had said before, are the successor or the sequel in a way. I don't necessarily want to say the sequel to the puzzle project, but they're a part of it. They're a piece to that puzzle in the way of all of that they're made of is just the cardboard scraps from the puzzle project. The puzzle project, for those that are unaware, is a series of 48 paintings that all connect together. And the idea behind that is that it all makes up essentially a life. All of the tiny 2 drips that are on it are layered on individually, and it's moments. It's moments that all connect together. Something like me maybe later today going out and having a sandwich with my dad or something at a bar. That's still a piece of today's puzzle. And it has nothing necessarily to do with what me and you are doing right now, but everything connects in one way or another. And the Heartbreakers, I had been sitting on these cardboard scraps for probably about a year or 2 years, and I knew that I wanted to do something with them. I thought that they were beautiful, and I knew that I wanted to create something, maybe just characters with them. And as you said, they were a bit of a side piece in the Puzzles and Pieces exhibition. I believe there was 6 pieces in there, maybe 10 total figures. And the original idea behind them was just they all have this little heart on their crotch, well, at least most of them, and then a smaller one on their heart where it should be. And the idea is pretty much how sexuality sometimes can get in the way of relationships, and how that can cause issues with people, or just like not even maybe in necessarily the relationship, maybe just internal struggles, and then that like causes more issues. And that was a lot of stuff that that was something that I was really going through at the time. And yeah, it was sort of just, it came about necessarily. It was just like a month before the exhibition, Puzzles and Pieces, and I was like, I really want to incorporate these in some way, somehow. And I just made the first figure. I made the first figure, and it was kind of crude, and I just, I remember me and my partner at the time, we had cut out some of the tiny like hearts and put them on our wall with some pictures, like some Polaroid pictures. And we wanted to redo our house or whatever, like redecorate. And so I took them down, and then I used one of them in a figure. And that was sort of like the birth of the Heartbreakers.
Wow. Wow. I think the cool part about how these were created is that, like you said earlier, it kind of just comes naturally. It's like a happy accident.
Yeah.
But it kind of still leads into that narrative and theme of like moments.
Yeah.
Like little moments led to you creating these creatures. And another thing I think that stands out about your art, another characteristic, is the colors and the way you mix the colors together. The thing that stands out the most to me is that every single piece has different colors, but even within the piece, then there's different textures and colors. So it's like you're kind of capturing, even with the puzzles and pieces, you're capturing like this complexity of things, and not just with a person, but within a person too. And you see that reflected in the music, the pictures, everything you do. Kind of talk about how that creation of making complex things plays into your art.
Like complex, like how the color comes through.
Yeah, how you put the colors through, because like you're not going to necessarily know how it's going to turn out, but you have to have some type of idea.
Yeah, it all starts with, as far as like the Heartbreakers go, it all starts with finding interest in forms in the scraps. And I will go into it where like today is sort of like, today I'm feeling a bit more green and yellow, and I want it to be a bit more like, I want to feel a bit more like growth, or like it's plant-like in a way. Or like the piece that's on the wall right next to you features a lot more of like black, gray, and dark red. Or maybe like that, like sea foam green is kind of like a big highlight there. That piece is particularly like a bit more sad to me because it's like there's two flying figures that are going away from this figure that's on the bottom, and they both have color to them. They both have, well, at least like brighter colors. The one on the right has those blues and purples, and the one on the left has those seafoam greens, but the one on the bottom is just much more dark, and it's much more like, I feel like burgundy, like a dark red, just implies sort of like red in general has like this danger to it, and a darker red has much more of like this sadness. And the idea behind that piece is sort of like that the one that's more like them is flying away, and they're reaching out for it and wanting that person, but then the one that might be a bit more brighter. And necessarily, is it like better to have a partner that's like you, or is it better to have a partner that's more unlike you, that like introduces you to new things, or might be better, you might be better off with that. But there's a choice to be made there, and they made that one. But like as far as like starting out with like just the colors, there's like two different ways I approach it, and the fact that I have like some days where like I'll start the puzzle project or like any piece, I'll go and I'll just sort of wing it, And wherever I'm feeling, it's much more gestural. It's much more grabbing bottles of paint as I go. Sometimes it's a bit more like sitting there and just like pondering carefully for 15 to 20 minutes. And then looking over at like the flower painting on the wall over there. That's what I call, there's a specific palette for that called the Code that I use, where that palette I used in this original painting that I made called, I can't remember, it's hard to explain. I made that out of, that was like the first painting I made where I started like taking myself seriously as an artist. And I made, I actually had just gotten out of the mental hospital, and my my like social workers told me I needed something to do like every single day. So that's when I started like taking art a bit more seriously. So I was working on this painting once a day, and that's sort of how I developed the process of wearing on the paint and like using the cardboard to as sort of a brush and using that. And that was like the deliberate like choosing colors for 10, 15 minutes, but it just had this beautiful palette that I was sort of drawn to forever after that, and I stared at for a couple years before I finally like took it into Photoshop and like dissected it. And I'll send you the image, but there's like an image I have that's pretty much just a guideline of like these specific about 50 colors that are used in that. And it's just sort of like has all of this darkness in it, but then the brights come through. And it's just something very specific related. It has something to do with that moment in time where just like I was at my lowest, but like I was still able to find something to bring me through, I guess. And as far, again, like going back to the Heartbreakers and like how those colors are picked, it's all sort of, I feel like it's all sort of to do with whatever emotion I wanted to strike. Where like blues are just much more sad. I mean, it's pretty, it's not like this deep thing really. It's sort of reds invoke danger, pinks invoke love, purple is the same, or but maybe a bit more melancholy love. Blues are obviously like just think about the blues, and you know, and that's sort of just how it is. And greens are kind of like, I guess I wanted to say the word like gnarly or just like kind of like gross, but can also, it's a certain type of green. Some greens are more growth, some are more growth and gross. I was going to say too, does all of these like people have the hearts? Does all of them include a heart? Because I see like this almost looks like it has an upside down heart. I just noticed it has a heart. Yeah, not all of them have their hearts. So some of them feature just the heart where it should be in their chest. Some of them feature it on their crotch, which leads to more of like the story of them feeling more like they're drawn towards their sexuality and exploring that versus being in a relationship. And some of them don't have their hearts at all, which is sort of just like the idea of like being, I don't know necessarily of being okay with just yourself, but not like craving anything, like not even wanting anything from anybody else. I've definitely experienced that with people that I've met who just straight up like, I don't want to have sex with anybody. I don't want a relationship. I just want to focus. I don't even necessarily if it's just like they're prioritizing themselves or they've just had enough. Like it's just like, I don't need any of that.
Or they may just be content.
They may just be content, and it's they just have no like desire for any of that. So if you see any pieces that just have no heart wherever, that's sort of like the story I'm alluding to. The one in the piece right here doesn't have it. It's actually, this piece is a great example because this one has none, and then this one just has the heart on the crotch, and then this one has both. Where it's like
the head almost looks like
and the head is a heart on that one, where it's like maybe that's to do with like self-love or peace of mind, maybe.
So another element too is the collaging and the texture. Cardboard naturally has so much texture that you can play with. and we saw that in the last exhibition you did. You have some helmets right here.
Yeah.
Have a lot of texture. Almost looks like a battle.
Yeah.
Helmets.
The helmets were actually so I was in school for 3 semesters the past like year and a half. I started I'm a fine art. I started in fall of 22, and when I got out for my second semester in spring 23, I had not really created like a whole lot of work in that. Like I created schoolwork, like stuff. Like I was making art, but it was all strictly like stuff for classes. It wasn't like any personal stuff. And when I got out of my spring semester, it was in May, and I was like, I need to make my personal stuff. After I've learned all this stuff, I need to implement it in some way. And something that was really big was my professor, Patrick Foran. He was my design teacher, and after I'm much more interested in design than like drawing or anything like that. As you can tell, everything's a bit more abstract, and it leads more into like design elements than anything else. And the helmets, specifically the one more orangey with like the bigger mane on it. That was the first one that I made, and I had this. It ties into the performance aspect, and it ties into music, and it's. I had this string of performances that I had booked, maybe like 6 for the like start of the summer. There was the final group chat. There was Porch Fest. That was shout out group chat.
Yeah, shout out group chat.
Shout out Wavy Chango. And group chat 13 was coming up. That was the debut of the helmet. I believe that was May 20th. I had Porch Fest the next day here at BICA. I was playing in Foursquare at the time. And there was just a string of performances, and it was the start of summer. And I remember last year, like winter particularly was rough on the community of Buffalo. We had huge blizzards, and it kind of just went all throughout. And I wanted something to signify the birth of summer. And that's where like the energy of that one came about. But you also said like it has this like battle to it. Like this aspect of battle to it. I wanted to, I thought that my performances were a bit mellow before. Not that I didn't bring any energy, but I was seeing what other people in the Buffalo scene were doing. And maybe it's just like, maybe I don't move around as much as other people, or maybe they're just a bit more like aggressive with how they present themselves. And I was, I was just like, I need to introduce something. And I had seen, I believe in summer of 21, I saw Tyler the Creator at Lollapalooza, I think. And I don't know if you've seen him before. I'm sure you've seen videos.
I've seen
but
videos,
but just the set design and like the character he absorbs himself into in every project. Like Igor, he had that whole like wig and sunglasses persona, and then the most recent project, he had like that fur hat that he was always wearing, and just like the costume. Exactly. Just
Suitcases.
just the character he makes for himself. So I wanted to like sort of take something like that and make it my own. So I was taking this idea of like birth of summer, and then you said battle. I was also thinking about like traditional Japanese armor. I don't know if you can see that, like how it scales. And then it was also just sort of like later on, looking back at it, I was looking at it and I thought maybe it sort of looked like a lion's mane a little bit. And that's why the second helmet is here, in the fact of like I was thinking about in the context of the Heartbreakers, the male and female perspective. And I was like, that one is much more male to me. That one's much more like aggressive and like battle ready. And then the second one, I was like, so if we're going to do the male and female thing at the Heartbreakers, then I kind of want to make one that's much more feminine. And the mane on it's much more small. So like thinking on that lion idea, I was thinking about how like female lions don't really have that big mane. And with both of them, it's also about this idea of like forward emotion versus like the, like what's in the back of your head. And you can kind of see that with the perspective that we're at right now, where like you could see the front of that one and the back of this one, where the back of that one's very similar in that the back's much darker colors.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like dark thoughts. And there's this, if I can turn this on real quick.
Oh, wow.
On both of them, so they're just like skateboard helmets.
Yeah.
I actually like the origin of me having these helmets was the 2020 protests.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was the protest in the 2020 summer, and we had gone to the protests, and we thought we were gonna get like rubber bulleted. So we were
helmets.
We were wearing them, and we had made shields and stuff. Me and my partner Steph were pretty much just like, we're gonna act as medics. So we just had like bags of like water and cloths and stuff to wash people's eyes out.
Yeah.
But these sat around after that for a couple of years, and then made something new of it. Where it's like you even said battle, and it's sort of like that's plays into it a little bit. But like this flash and feign, the initial like design aspect of it in this terms of skateboarding is like you can ride at night and people will see you. But since it's in the back, it's sort of like it was this idea of like always like this panic going off on the back of your head. I feel like it's all these whole things are all about forward facing. Like, I mean, like at the end of the day, if you're not doing okay, like that's good, but you're not gonna like complain to every single person. It is just a personal issue, and everybody else is going through it as well. And it's sort of just like, it might be like 3-4 times a day where you're reminded of your problems, and like that light sort of goes off when you're not absorbed in like your work or something. You're a very like work determined person as well, so you can understand that. But like the instant you remember something it
comes and it changes your whole mood.
Your whole mood.
I was gonna say too, like there's this very cathartic process with your art and also with your music, and it's like you kind of like rip the veil of like emotions. So you almost kind of created this whole world where it's okay and common practice to like express exactly how you're feeling in the moment, no matter how maybe awkward it is. Yeah. You like execute it in a way where it feels like natural.
I think it is natural, but we often hide it, is the thing. Yeah, I think that had a lot to do. Like I said, I went to the mental hospital in 2017, and then I started to get therapy and stuff. That was due to, like, me going to mental hospital. I won't spend too much time on this, but me initially going to the mental hospital was because I was taking a lot of LSD, and I had just had a really bad trip. And I thought that everybody had hated me and blah, 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 blah. And I think a lot of that, like, that's the reason bad trips happen is because of internalized emotion at the end of the day, I feel like. And I wasn't good. I was around a bunch of kids in Lockport that were not artistic types, were not like, I guess the best way to put it is manly men or like maybe even incels in a way. And that's sort of like the guys I grew up around. And showing emotion wasn't particularly like... Not that it wasn't accepted, just that it's out of the norm, and it's not. You can't really relate. But going to therapy for a couple years just like made it easier to talk about my emotions and just like be more of myself. And it came through where like that's sort of when I started to like write a bit more. And I remember I wrote my first song, which was I was writing a little bit of poetry here and there, but. I believe the title of the song was "Due." It's never come out, and the title of the song changed now to "I Don't Feel This Way Anymore." But it was just like this love poem that I found a beat on YouTube, and then I was like, "Oh, this matches perfectly," and like I went with it. But talking about emotion in my songs always seemed to be easy to me because I had like gone through those conversations in therapy. And for the most part, it was like I never like sit down and like I'm gonna write today or anything. And that sort of ties into like what I said about like happy accidents and stuff like that. It's always like I'm in a mood and then I browse YouTube for 20 minutes and then it's like this beat brings out a feeling in me. And then I just write, then I just vent. And it's, I'm never really going into a song with like the idea of like what people are going to think of it or anything like that. It's always just like, I need this. I need to understand what's going on with me. And maybe this, particularly a lot of my songs are about like my relationship with my partner. And I'm sure that's very stressful for the other person. And I understand that, and I've had conversations with them about that. And it's, I hope that like maybe through those songs that like it is communication and healthy communication of like what's going on in my head, why is this worrying me, like maybe the feeling of like you listening to a love song that somebody else made and like you get that feeling. You get that feeling from other people's music. Maybe if I make that and you can see it from your partner, that maybe it will like create a deeper connection and a deeper understanding of each other. But I don't want to act like all of it's necessarily healthy. Like a lot of it is anger, and like I'm not like particularly like a screaming person, but like there is like Wired, which you listen to, where that's not really a relationship song, but like I get aggressive and I start screaming in the second verse. And Icky is the first song on the project, which is more so not really a love song, but sort of like that was happening during our breakup, and it was just like, if you hate me, leave me, I don't give a fuck, you know. And it's sort of just like this rejection of like I'm doing something wrong. Because I always feel like I have to make a, and it's both people, but I always feel like I'm the one that's doing something wrong a lot of the time. And it's like, why don't you admit something for once? Why don't you write a poem or like show me that? It's just sort of like, it's a communication method for me, and it's like journaling. It's just understanding of oneself.
You can feel the highs and lows throughout that project too. And like I said, you have a way, I think one of the beautiful things of an artist is they have a way of sharing these complex feelings, emotions, or just experiences in a way that makes other people understand. So I feel like even the way in which you execute it, whether you're being aggressive or there's like more small intimate moments, you can definitely feel it. And I think even what you did with the vocals, like changing the vocals, helps you kind of get into different worlds. It actually was kind of reminding me a little bit of, I don't know if you listen to Kendrick Lamar, Untitled.
Yeah.
Like the way he changes his voice, that's actually one of my favorite projects. And the way he changes his voice.
Kendrick goes up a lot more than he goes down, I feel like. Yeah. And I actually had been feeling like back in the day when I was trying to record that I was always going a bit more down, and I wasn't really like going like that high pitch. But I feel like
But the switches, the constant switch, like lets you know, okay, now he's feeling this way, now he's feeling this way. So it's kind of like, it makes you understand just exactly what's happening. Like you can see the emotional roller coaster happening in the time.
And I feel like changing the pitch down, like has this sort of like melancholy, but also like it can be much more like, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like when you go down, it's like I'm that deep voice person that's kind of scary, or it can be like, or very mumbly and sort of like just sad within oneself. And then that high pitch, you can really go anywhere with that. I mean, it's sort of just, not that you can't go anywhere anyway, but just sort of like how I feel about it. But that high pitch just sort of like has much more like energy to it. It feels more alive. It's just sort of like, I don't necessarily know how to describe it, but yeah, about that ups and downs, how it's like the whole song is in one way. Some of it is in my natural voice. Some of it is in that high pitch. Some of it is in that down. Rice Noodles is the greatest example of that because there's much more dynamics in that song, and you could see that in the performance as well. It's a lot of just twisting the knobs and having fun with it and feeling it out. But there's a part in Rice Noodles where I'm so bad at remembering my lyrics, like unless I like do the full song. But I can't remember the lyrics right before, but it says, may be low at my lows. And it goes like, I think for like May, it's high, B is low, low is still low, and then at my is high, and then lows may be low at my lows, and it's just like it gets all down. And then it goes back to the normal voice where it's like I ain't easy to deal with, and it's just sort of like that back to I, where it's like I'm back to my normal self. And yeah, I feel like the dynamics is important, and just like that's something where even like for the past 2 exhibitions, I've curated playlists for the entire night, and it's like I'm not having a DJ. Maybe that's the next step. Maybe I should, but I feel like curating like the playlist for the night and like just being very conscious of the ups and downs of the flow. You can't have the same vibe the entire time. It's not going to connect with people. I remember we were BICA was at this event, and we were trying to dance to the DJ. And it was all like just, it was all the same BPM, and it was all like just dance tracks, and there was never any lyrics. And there was like 20 people there. So like I feel like that is kind of okay in like this huge like dance environment. You got to read the room a little bit, where it's just sort of like if it's just a club and there's 300 people in there and you want to rock the same BPM the whole night, I think that might be excusable. But there's 20 people in front of you.
And so you gotta make sure you connect.
And like with recorded music, usually you're gonna like, if you're trying to tell a story, it's gonna be with the one person, the one person that's listening to it at the moment. So like you gotta make sure you're going up and down. You gotta make sure that your album has ebbs and flows. You gotta make sure that the track itself does. And yeah, just sort of like what you're saying about how I'm feeling in the moment. It's it's sort of like what I'm saying about that's being journaling, where it's like maybe I write 4 lines and then I notice something else about myself, and those 4 lines helped me process something, and now I'm in a different emotion because I realized that, and I'm like I'm angry here, and then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be angry because they were actually trying to do this for me or whatever. And it's just sort of writing and realizing, and then all of a sudden the track's done and you're like, I feel better. And I hope that this can help somebody else feel better.
Now the approach to, you talked about kind of part of your approach of you go on YouTube, find a beat that connects with you, and then write a couple lines and then something else comes to you. Was there an intention to create a project, or did it just you started doing this so much as like this thing of like musical journaling that you're like, well, let me put it together?
There was never like a concept album, I guess. It was never like, okay, well, this is like the project and we're going to talk about these stories or anything. It was just sort of like I'm living my life and I'm making these tracks as I go. So that's another thing to talk about is the idea of a project and the idea of a release. Is that I've been writing for 5-6 years at this point, and some of these songs, Bottle is the oldest of them, I believe, but Bottle and Wired, those 2 tracks were actually originally on a project called Sometimes I Like to Take Showers in the Dark, a very emo like name. I think I was like 19 when I thought of that name, and it's from back in the day. It's from back when I first started writing. And Rice Noodles is from my first semester at school, so that's 2022, and Icky's is from this past summer. So it's all a culmination of like tracks that were written over the course of the past 5 years. And that's, like I said, it's a lot of it is like relationships and like how a lot of this tracks are love songs or talking about love songs. It's like I didn't get into my first relationship until I was 21, and that gave me a lot more confidence. My partner believed in me immensely, and I'm ever grateful to them for that. We're not together anymore, but just growth through other people is extremely important, and I'm extremely grateful for them. And they believed in me, and I wrote more and more and more. This idea of the project, I was just always so scared to release. And that's the thing with performances, is I was never scared to perform. It was always like, this is going to be 30 minutes, and then I move on with the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if I have a bad performance, it's sort of like...
It can go away.
It can go away. I can get better.
Yeah.
But like, if I put this album out, it's done.
Yeah. It's always in the world. People can go back to it.
Even if I remaster or something like that, it's always, this was the initial like drop, and this is how people felt about it at the time. So I was always scared to, and a lot of it was like to do with like, I'm broke. I can't go to the studio. I have to get like the worst version of Ableton for my computer, and I have to just practice and like get better at mixing over months, over years. And there's Wired specifically is a track that has been recorded and mixed over 10 times, over 15 times, and like where I was finally happy with this version. And a lot of it was to do with deadline, where like doing this exhibition wasn't necessarily so scary for me, because like I had done it. And you were there last time. I had done it. I had done an exhibition, and that was scary. That was super scary. But I knew that like people enjoyed it, and like I brought the community together, and like people had deeper connections with me, and it brought me friendships, and it brought me the life that I'm living right now. And that was just such a great thing, and I knew that I had nothing left to be scared of. But like for the album, it was like, I haven't done this before. So I knew that I had done the performance at the Puzzles and Pieces show, and I knew that I wanted to perform again, and I was making the flyer for it. I think I made the flyer initially when I talked to you about doing this interview. I was like, I'll send you the flyer, I'll finish it tomorrow or whatever. And I think that was early December, maybe like the end of November that I was talking to you. I was putting the stuff on the flyer that was like free admission, you know, like food and like art raffle, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, let me just put EP release party on here. And that was it. It was great. It was like a split-second decision of like, it's got to come out. When's it going to be, dude? You know? Like it's been 5-6 years. You're writing 5-6 years. Make the track. Like finalize these tracks. You're like comfortable like with your recording process now. You have like nothing. Like you have stuff that you've recorded that you don't want to necessarily like put out, but like you learned from. So like you have a month. And it's sort of like the inspiration for that might have even been like 10 Day by chance back in 2012 when he was suspended for 10 days, and he's like, I need to make the project now. Now is when I have the time. And I had taken off of work for a couple weeks, and I had just gotten off of school, and I had more time than I had had in the last year. And I was like,
might as well do it now.
Give myself 2 weeks, about 10 days. And make the project. And it's all written. And, you know, I'm not writing any new songs. It's just like sit in there, record, give it detail, give it emotion. Think about everything that's happened in this journey, and just like just try your best, and don't be afraid. And Honestly, I was more afraid that it wouldn't come out because DistroKid was like, "Give us 2 weeks to put it out," and I gave him a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
It was worth it though, you know. Like you said, you had already done the exhibition part, so you knew you did it already. I can do it again and execute. And I think pushing yourself and saying, okay, this is going to be the EP release, this is going to be the time, and giving yourself a time frame is important.
Yeah. So, I think just wanted to go back to your last question where I pretty much like dismissed the idea of it being like a concept album or anything like that, and like writing tracks based off that. It wasn't like I was writing tracks for it, but let's say I have like 100, 150 songs right now that are written but aren't like done. You know what I mean? It's still like I chose the title of the project, Cigarette Vending Machine. I've been smoking a lot recently. It's sort of just like, this is the small thing where like I could get, like I could become an alcoholic. I just have an addictive personality. So like I could become an alcoholic. I could become like a sex addict and be like hopping between girls every night or whatever. I could try. I'm not going to say that I'm capable. But you know what I mean? But like I could, I went to the mental hospital for acid. I still have acid. I could still like do that every night if I wanted to. And it's like the cigarettes are just like a small thing where it's like, okay, I can have this and then go about my day and it won't ruin my life necessarily. And that's sort of, go ahead.
Speaking of that, I think it's in Icky's. I can't remember. I know it's one of the earlier tracks. You talk about like skipping breakfast. This will hold you longer. Eating.
Oh, it's 5:32.
Okay, 5:32. And I'm like,
breakfast makes me tired. Cigarettes make me go longer. Microdose my lungs.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, like this is. It's almost like there you need something almost to like release. There's like you said, that is a good point because there's something that you like kind of latch onto to release and make you like, I guess, focus on what you need to do or just. And so that I thought that was so interesting. Like I know because I didn't grow up eating breakfast. So like breakfast is super important to me. As an
breakfast makes me tired.
When you said that,
and
I was like, no.
Breakfast makes me so tired, and like I'll eat breakfast, whatever. I try to eat breakfast somewhere between like 8 and 10, and then it's like, but that's when my creative period usually is around like 10 to 1, 10 to 2,
okay.
And like if I eat breakfast, I'm just slumped. I'm slumped,
well,
and
you know yourself.
Yeah, and I know that it's like healthier to do it, but it's like everybody's body's different.
Yeah.
And like, even before today, I had a banana and a bagel, and when I was waiting for you, I was a little like, but yeah. So it's like the only reason like. I was just smoking a whole bunch, and I was like, I'm not like, these songs aren't about cigarettes, but there's like 1 or 2 lines in these songs that reference it. And then like Icky's is the intro track, and it has all this coughing at the start and like the lighter flick. There's that line in 5:32. The music video, I'm chain smoking the entire time. Let me see. Damn, it's damn, but there's this line that's like another cigarette, wet and cold, and it's there just always seems to be like the one line, and I think that like calls to addiction, that calls to like the idea of it always being there, and the idea of a cigarette vending machine is just how easy it is.
I was gonna say, because I'm like, that's such an interesting title. Like, you wouldn't imagine, like, someone going to a vending machine, but like you said, it's something that you go to when you're, I guess, when you're trying to refocus or at least release. Yeah. And so that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually thought of, I don't know, it was random one day, it must have been a year ago, where I thought of, like, just the title Cigarette Vending Machine. I'm like, that's an awesome band name. Yeah. And because, like, band names are crazy. And I looked it up on Spotify, and no one had it, and I'm like, that's mine. But Cigarette Vending Machine, just the idea. I was just thinking about how those were actually a thing before. Like, I mean, we're very young, so we never really saw one in action.
Oh,
I guess.
These were a thing.
These were a thing. Yeah,
oh, wow.
Cigarette vending machines were a big thing in bars. I was just being told by somebody. It might have been Nando. I'm not exactly sure. But shout out Nando and Emily, the owners and founders of BICA, where we're in the space right now. Yeah. And for giving me all these opportunities. I love you. Thank you.
Yes.
But just talking about like this tennis club that used to have one where he was taken to as a kid all the time.
Wow.
And then it'd be like people would be doing exercise and then they would go grab a cigarette right after. The like duality of that is crazy. Yeah. And not even to say that hasn't affected me. I've definitely, throughout this whole addiction, gone to the gym and then had one. And it's kind of, immediately when I'm having it, I'm just like, what am I doing? You know? Yeah. I'm getting healthy and then immediately like, oh.
I used to have a friend and she would be like, a cup of coffee and a cigarette in the morning is just like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But the way she like described it was like, it's this amazing thing. And at first I was looking at her crazy, but I'm like, this is something that she really enjoys. Like, this sets her off for the day.
That's breakfast. So we were just talking. About breakfast.
It does something.
It's a starter. Right now, I'm on energy drinks instead of coffee, which I was doing a lot of energy drinks when I was driving for Amazon, but not until recently. But the last like 2 months have just been like, it's back. And it's just addictions. I mean, you can form addictions of anything. Food can be an addiction. Yeah. I like have a sweet tooth when I'm not smoking. I have a sweet tooth anyway, but when I'm not smoking, I'm sugar all day long. And it's just sort of like, that's just the idea of cigarette vending machine, is just that addictions are easy. Yeah. And it's hard to overcome, and like you could try your best. And I'm proud to say that like I know that I can, because like I like told myself I was going to be sober for 6 months just to see if I could do it. Like the idea of quitting forever is very hard. Yeah. Because you don't know how long forever is. Yeah. So I believe it was my first semester. I was like, I'm going to quit for 6 months. And I did. I didn't do anything. I didn't drink, smoke, whatever. And it was great to know that. Yeah. So I know that I have the willpower if I want it, but I'm not saying that it's not hard. Yeah. Yeah. And it's better to do it, like you said, in fragments, so you don't stress yourself and all that weight. Everybody needs a release. Yeah. And as long as you're not like actively like destroying your life, I think it's okay. And like something to do with like me taking that break is also like during the winter, it's like I don't even want to be outside. Why do I want a cigarette? And like during the summer, it's like, oh, I'm at a show and everybody's having fun, and then let's all go outside and have a smoke and just be part of each other. Yeah. But it's just just the idea of addiction's easy.
So bringing the art together, the music together, you being kind of like a performance artist, creator.
It's my favorite. The performance is my love.
Yeah, you can tell too. You could tell too, because there's this whole nother like level inside of you that you get.
I've had a lot of people come up to me, especially after that last performance, and just tell me like it's really fun to see you just be you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that I have a lot of like social anxiety, and I'm pretty reserved a lot of the time. Yeah. I'm not like that loud of a person.
I think that's what's surprising. Like when I see you perform, you're like totally different, way more expressive.
I don't even see the people. I mean, like I try to pay attention to the crowd, but I don't really see anybody for the most part. It's just me up there. I don't know what that says, but it's sort of just like. There's certain times where I see my friends in the crowd and I give them a little bit of attention. I know that it's a big thing about performance where you want to be actively looking at the crowd, and I do, but like there's something in my brain, it turns them off. Yeah. And I'm just in the, and that has to do with, you know, we're talking about multidisciplinary art and like doing all these different things, but like I was talking a bit before about how like my first relationship gave me a lot of confidence. We had gone to, it's funny, I actually saw you at the comedy club a little bit ago. But I used to do improv comedy. Do you know improv? Yeah. So we had went to the improv comedy club a couple times. That was like our third date or something, and then we like kept going. And they like in the it's shout out Comedy Sports. And they in the middle of their like games always were like, hey, we do classes, blah 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 blah. come have fun with us. And like, it was like $150 for 8 weeks. Like, that's a steal.
Yeah.
That's a steal.
8 weeks. Yeah.
8 classes for $150.
Yeah.
Give it to them.
Yeah.
And I was afraid because I was like, I'm not funny. And then my partner's like, you're funny. And I'm like, damn, I'm funny. And they're like, you're funny. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And that will, like, with a little bit of back and forth, you know, like, I don't want to do it, but they're like, you should do it. But I don't want to do it. You should do it. I should do it. Yeah, you should do it. I don't want to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. You know?
Yeah.
And then I did that for about a year. And then that just helped me, like, realize that, like, people forget. And that's what we were sort of talking about with performance before, where it's like, people don't care. People got too much stuff going on for it to, like, for this moment to be, like, for this, like, moment that's mediocre to matter. So don't be afraid. Because, like, if something's particularly, like, bad, people will remember. And if something's particularly great, people will remember. But people don't remember stuff that's just okay. So, like, don't be afraid to try stuff. Because the likelihood that you're going to be very bad, the more you practice, goes away. And the likelihood that you're going to be great goes up when you're, the more you do it. Again. And you could always do it again. And that's what improv just taught me, is just like, people don't care. Just be you. Just do whatever comes to your head. Do it quick. Don't don't think about it. And then again, I'll give another shout out, Buffalo Wordism. I don't know if you're familiar. Shout out Oisha and Jumani. And just like, I started performing there, and that's not like a hip hop thing. That's just spoken word. And they just showed me love. Everybody in that community showed me love, and just like, I would just go there and do my songs, and then do a little, like, I don't want to say crowd play, but just talking to people as I was up there, and just like having a giggle, having a laugh. And that showed me that it was okay to do that in like a free 4-minute span. And then, like, I started doing some other random open mics in the area. Then I started doing sets, and it was just sort of like, you can make a little routine out of this, where like you can plan some stuff and you can not plan some stuff. Like we built the stage this time for the performance with the cardboard, and the idea was, I'm gonna destroy it. But there was never an idea of like how I'm gonna do it.
It was just gonna be. It was
just gonna be a moment. It's just how it's gonna happen. The first one was the side table, and like, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and then I tried to like throw it up into the crowd, but instead I just whipped it right at Wavy, who helped build the stage. And then I was like, oh shit. And then it was like, oh, it's coming to that point in Wired where it's like, I start screaming laying in my bed, and then I just hopped into it. And then I don't remember necessarily what happened with the fridge. I don't think that I like reference a fridge in any of my songs, so I was like, it got destroyed somewhere along the line.
The fridge was actually really impressive too.
Yeah, shout out Ernie, shout out Ether, and Wavy. You guys did a great job. It had the little NM on it, like the plate that always,
I thought that was cool.
Like a fridge air or whatever. And then Rice Noodles was the last song, so I figured save the oven for that, because that's like reference to cooking and stuff. And then the door actually worked, so I think Ether came through and like it was like the 7th song, the song right before Rice Noodles. I don't know if that was Saturdays of Jazzy. I think it might have been, which isn't out yet. Shout out Jazzy. We've been working together all year.
Shout out Jazzy J.
We did, that song will come out this summer, I promise. That song's beautiful. But right after that, I was like, is there any rice noodles left? Because I made the food for the exhibition, and they shoved a little plate in there, and then I destroyed it after I like had a little bite when everybody was doing it. It's just been amazing to like perform over the last year, and for people to like learn the lyrics through that, and then for the project to come out, and then everybody's screaming damn, or everybody's doing the like stupid trumpet noise at the end of Rice Noodle. I didn't even have to do it. I was just eating rice noodles during the final seconds, and everybody was going brr, brr, brr. And it was a surreal moment, and it was just sort of like the love that these people can show, and the love, hopefully that they sense that I'm giving it back, and just like, community is amazing, and I'm just going everywhere right now. But it's
it's really cool to see like your progression and how you've like continued to like redefine like what you create or expand upon it more so. So I think that's been cool to see that journey since. What was it? Wordism.
So like when I first met you, me and Destin started the open mic Buffalo Beat sessions.
Yes, that's
which we did partner with Wordism, which was supposed to be specifically a hip hop open mic. It just really wasn't working out, especially because like I think a lot of it had to do with me and Destin were out of nowhere. Like we weren't known at all. We weren't really in the community, to be honest. And we're just these guys that nobody knows running this open mic.
But you guys like, so I went to a couple of them, and they were cool. Like it was a small, intimate setting, and like you said, you kind of need those spaces to like try things out. Yeah. So like you said, like because people will forget, and they know that you're at least trying and experimenting. So it was good for the time that you had it.
I think what failed about it. And I think it's good to talk about the failures of projects as well. I feel like I'm talking a lot about how like things are going well. These are important moments, and just what I meant by like we were unknown is that I feel like a lot of hip hop is built on respect. Yeah. And we didn't really have it. We hadn't built any of that, and I don't think that we necessarily had earned that. So when we were trying to like maybe we're trying to give people time, and like somebody's like. We're giving everybody 2 songs, like that's your limit, and then somebody would hog the mic and they would just keep going for 5 songs, and we would be like, you need to get off the stage, and they wouldn't like who are you? You know what I mean? Yeah. But that also was like my introduction to trying to like host stuff and host events, and then like again. Going to group chat was like an amazing experience of like not even just performing, but also just like watching how Wavy and Chango had like determined how to keep people engaged, how to like make sure everybody's just having a great time, and like make sure that the artists are appreciated that are performing. And I did an interview with Wavy about like not that that's out or anything, but just for like my personal self. Just like how did they do that? How did you make everybody feel at home? And like appreciated and like so on and so on. And that's what Foursquare got birthed out of, was my experience of Buffalo Beat sessions and my experience of with group chat. And gonna be doing like 4 more Foursquares this year.
So these are your events, Foursquare?
Yeah. Okay. Which I don't think you made it out to, but you did. You knew a bit about it. The last one was me, Jazzy, Julian, and Suave.
Okay. Yeah.
So we hosted that in the BICA garage. We'll be doing that 4 times this summer. I don't necessarily have like exactly who's going to be on the bills yet, but that's getting in the works. And event hosting is just like a passion for me as well, because like I'm just big on showing love. I'm big on like everybody getting their spotlight. I'm big on community, meeting new people, having fun. So
that's awesome. And again, like I said, it's just really dope to see how you have progressed. Like even you were talking about the failures, the up and downs, and kind of how you continue to expand your art, but also your gifts as a photographer. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out his Nick Mass brand, where he like repurposes the tees and puts his branding on it. You do pictures with that. You're a performance artist, the way you perform, everything. So now you're talking about event hosting and putting events together and being someone who's an organizer. So, you're a creator in all facets. So it's really dope to get to see it kind of from the beginning. So it's awesome. From my perspective, it's really awesome.
Meeting me, because I think Beat Sessions was in 21. So here we are in 24.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and it's I appreciate you being able to watch me, and everybody I've met along the way. It really seemed like 2023 was like the transformative like year, just getting all that experience from meeting all. I just want to say like my closest friends right now are pretty much all people I met last year.
Wow.
And and that's sort of why like I don't want to stop, is just like that I'm just meeting all these people that I feel blessed are in my life, and not to be greedy, more of that, please. You know, it's just, I think it's just like, these are the people that are working hard on themselves, and like, as you do that, they'll come around.
Yeah. Shout out to Buffalo art scene, because I feel the same way. My transformative year was like 2019, 2020, 2019 mainly, and the same thing. Most of my closest friends are artists and creatives and do what I do, you know, so it's beautiful the way once you like apply yourself and just continue being consistent and being confident in what you're doing, even if you're messing up, you're getting slowly better and better, like you mentioned. Like, the beautiful thing about Buffalo's art and music scene is that they will embrace you. It might take a little time, but they eventually will embrace you.
It all takes time.
Yeah.
Time is undefeated, as I've been saying recently.
Very much so. Yeah. So thanks again, you guys, for tuning in. Thank you again, Nick Mass, for making the time and letting us get an intimate view into your art, your work, and your life. And we are at BICA. Shout out to Buffalo Institute of Contemporary Art. Make sure you follow them, support them. They put on amazing, you know, local artists like Nick Mass and rising artists in Buffalo. And we need, you know, institutions like this. So thanks for tapping in. Peace. Sneak vibing. You already know what it is.
_ Nick Mass on Instagram.
Awesome.